p.m. and we are at the regular meeting of our Health, Education, and Neighborhood Council Committee. We are in room 1010, and I apologize for starting late. The City Council meeting has still not ended, but I wanted to come up and start this meeting. We actually don't have quorum today. One of our colleagues is sick, as well as the Council President is still conducting the City Council meeting, which is still not over. But I want to remind anyone who wants to speak for public comment or on any other items to please sign up and bring up the speaker cards up to the front. And I want to open it up to general public comment. Wait, do we have any general public? Yeah, here we go. Okay, there it is. General public comment. Rosano Paez. And then next will be George Luperico and Zach Strasser. You guys can come up and sit if you want, if you like, and I'll give you guys a minute each.
Good afternoon, Health, Education, and Neighborhood Council Committee members. My name is Rosendo. There's a 2,500-foot oil and gas setback, threatening to eliminate over 100,000 jobs from the economy in LA County. We must be careful when we make drastic changes like this, because many families are being threatened with the loss of their livelihood. Let's send the right message to this large, hardworking, and tax-paying population. LA cares, and we support you. Vote no on the 2,500-foot setback. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you state your name?
Hello, my name is George. Good afternoon, Health, Education, and Neighborhood Council Committee members. I love my city. I am a native Angelino. I went to school here. I had my daughter here. I go to church here. I live here, and I work here. I am LA. When you raise the cost of gas, you hurt me. When you raise the cost of groceries, you hurt me. A 2,500-foot oil and gas setback has a ripple effect in our local economy. So if you love LA, vote no on the setback of oil and gas wells. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Could I get the audience? Thank you, thank you. And for the record, that was your George Luperis?
Yes, sir.
Luperico? Okay, sorry about that. And the previous speaker was?
Rosendo Paez.
Thank you very much. Zach?
Good afternoon. My name is Zach Strasters. I'm here on behalf of the Arms Corporation, and today we're talking about a 2,500-foot oil and gas production setback. So we're opposed to that. Ultimately, in the state of California, there's over 300,000 jobs that would be affected by the message that this sends. If we vote yes on the setback, it says that we're okay with the repercussions not only in industry, meaning all the jobs that would be affected, all the ultimately resulting modifications that would take place to the structure of laws in the other cities, because LA is a forerunner city, it's a bellwether city, so the way the policy gets structured here, it follows through the rest of California. We would also be sending a message to the overall economy of the state of California, and in particular, LA families would feel that the hardest. When oil and gas production goes up, then that means consumer prices at the pump go up, that means that the cost of transportation of goods goes up, so they will feel an effect. Ultimately, those people we're looking to protect with that, they would be the ones that felt it the most. Vote no on the setback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, could we have Mr. Herman? You sign up for all items. Give you 3 minutes, 2 minutes for your items, and a minute for your public comment. Come on up.
Segregation, nigger. Oh.
Dealing with the opportunities to hire a consultant to provide comprehensive analysis of economic benefit structure, finance management, and recommend and implementing child savings account program. Well, let me advise the city that you are an institutional that is dysfunctional and apprehensive when it comes to the investments and opportunities for a comprehensive benefit structure financing management. HHH is part of the structure of housing and community, and you fucked up $100 million in the last 3 years to not provide housing, as you heard that fucking stupid fuck Eric Garcetti say this past weekend. I'm trying to improve housing. but I'm so busy running as the new chancellor for Washington that I don't have time to deal with public issues.
So do you want to speak on that? Do you have 2 minutes to speak on the items now?
And then,
Thank you.
hold on, sir, I don't read. And then on item number 5, Walk with Ease program. Well, I suffer from a physical disability and I can't fucking walk safely in Los Angeles. That's the reason why we gotta keep the motherfucking World Cup out of this country, because it's not safe. If you walk with one leg or if you wheelchair your shit around this fucked up city, Willits versus Los Angeles and Barton versus Sacramento, you're not safe. And the motherfuckers want you to fill out a claim form and sue the city for $1.5 million in a slip and fall incident involving any case regarding Arthur Wright and his partnership walk. So don't forget, if you fall into a situation, sue the fucking city of Los Angeles. Now my general public comment. In addition to the justice of Goodwin Liu, not Rue, but Liu, a young person who knows he or she has no chance to leave prison for 50 years has little or no incentive to become a responsible individual. So when you sleep with women who are unconscious after a so-called college party or a frat party or any type of fucked up party you attend in the city of Los Angeles, don't ever sleep with an unconscious woman or you'll be arrested. In addition to being arrested, it goes on your record and people like me find out that you've been sleeping or attempting to assault a woman who's asleep, and that's called date rape. Stop fucking with women, Rue!
Thank you. Is there, one more general comment, I apologize. Mr. Eric Previn, you signed up for 6 of the items. We'll give you 3 minutes, 1 for public comment, and 2 minutes to address the items.
Thank you, sir. It's Eric Previn from Studio City, and I am a member of the Studio City Neighborhood Council board, but I am speaking on behalf of myself, obviously. 2 items on your agenda today bring to mind the big news across the cover of the newspapers today. You have Xi Jinping of China is extending, he's doing away with term limits so that he will serve until further notice. You know, this has been going on.
1 second. If we could have, I just wanted to make sure.
You're disrupting my.
I'll hold your time. I'll hold your time. If we could have quiet in the audience, please. We're trying to allow the speaker to speak. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Eric. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Don't worry.
Yeah. So I was talking about how in China they've extended the term limits for the leader there. He has extended a little group. And here in Studio City, in the city of Los Angeles, across all the 96 neighborhood councils, we've come to the conclusion that it would be a good idea to finally cancel the election, or postpone the elections for right now for a whole other year. I'm upset about it. I've been upset about it for a long time because as soon as the election took place 2 years ago, people knew that was a disaster. Let's reform it. And I don't know what Holly Wolcott and Grace Liu were doing. I know they were busy, but they weren't busy doing what we needed them to do, which is impose on some of the neighborhood councils some rules, basic rules, so that the bylaws could be fair and accessible. And what's the result is, unfortunately, people all over town who do not like the people who got elected, like me, people do not like the people like me who got elected and want to vote them out, are robbed of that opportunity. And we have a problem in our neighborhood councils, I think, as is, because for whether it's, they're constantly clamoring about how it's the staffing problem, there aren't enough staff, but one way or the other we have a problem because many of the neighborhood councils are not functioning properly. And, you know, maybe it's because of the insular nature, maybe it's because of the incumbents producing rules and schemes to stay in power. One thing that we're facing in our neighborhood council right now is a seated board member is trying to open her pocketbook to a 501c3 that she herself is starting, so it's a startup 501c3, and it's all about getting business cards for her and a computer and outreach, which does not benefit the rest of our neighborhood council, so it's clearly some kind of a conflict of interest. And I would just say, for the poor people in Mar Vista who face a board that's full of people who support one idea that they don't support, they're being robbed of the opportunity to fight that, and I think that's really, really bad. I would like to say thank you to you, sir, for your item to look at providing money for kids to invest. I love the idea of outreaching about doing that. But one thing that we could add back to the neighborhood council mix is outreaching to the neighborhood councils and providing a kind of a layover of outreach that is required by neighborhood councils, because that's what's been missing. So things like Prop K projects, other engineering projects that happen in the district never get informed to the people of the district because the neighborhood councils are quietly winking. And a good example of that is paid professional or preferential parking district number 276, which if you Google it, your head will pop off because nobody knows about it except for the hungry little signature gathering people. And it's not appropriate because it's going to affect the way we all do business along Ventura Boulevard in Studio City. And I know you're Sherman Oaks and Crocori in Studio City, but we're all facing the same kind of vibrancy that needs to be accommodated for all Angelenos. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. There are no other public comment. Any other public comment cards? Seeing none, I'm going to be closing public comment. And I would like to begin. We have comment cards on item 3 and 4, right? So I want to move items 5, 6, and 7 as a chair's report to the council. Make that notation, and I'd like to start with item number 1. Mr. CLA, could you read that in?
Sure. Item number 1 is the Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department to report relative to the funding opportunities available to hire a consultant to provide comprehensive analysis of the economic benefits, structure, financing, management, and recommendations for implementing a pilot child savings account program, also scheduled pursuant to council action of May 19, 2017.
Thank you, Mr. CLA. If I could have Aaron Thiemann come up, who is the very excited, who is the hired consultant by the city for our committee on behalf of Prosperity Now. If you could give us a brief explanation of who you are and what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aaron Thiemann, and I am a consultant on the Children's Savings Team at Prosperity Now. Prosperity Now is a DC-based organization formerly known as the Corporation for Enterprise Development that works on providing a clear path to financial stability, wealth, and prosperity for all Americans. We've been working since 1979 with direct service providers, elected officials, and researchers, primarily in the field of asset building. So that includes children's savings accounts, affordable home ownership, and financial capability and empowerment. We're here today to work on children's savings. Children's savings really is our bread and butter, and Prosperity Now has been instrumental in getting children's savings account programs off the ground in other jurisdictions across the United States, including a new program in New York City called NYC Kids Rise, and one of the oldest CSA programs in the country in San Francisco called Kindergarten to College, along with some other programs in St. Louis, where I've spent the last several years working on program design and implementation. So armed with those lessons and best practices around the country, we are here to support the Housing and Community Investment Department, along with the City of Los Angeles and LAUSD, in designing a comprehensive children's savings account programs that will meet the needs of Angelenos and be a benefit to the City of Los Angeles.
Great. Thank you so much. We are going to be seeing you at this committee again and again as you give us the periodic reports of the status. I'm very excited about CSA programs. This is a no-brainer. This has been done throughout various cities and states in our nation with positive results. I don't have to explain the importance of high school graduation and, more importantly, college enrollment and a college degree, which just increases salaries by eightfold. Most of our job market that we see now requires a college degree. So this will lift families out of poverty. So this is very, very exciting. But I'm just going to ask you one question, and just for the audience who are listening, can you talk about the various CSA programs that are currently in existence? Children's savings accounts. You know, we talk about it so much that we use acronyms. People might not understand, but children's savings accounts and the benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been a lot of research and some programs that have been off the ground, as I mentioned, for several years that are showing some really early promising results. So research has shown that less than $500 in a dedicated college savings account results in a child being 3 times more likely to enroll in college and 4 times more likely to graduate from college. So that's really what we're here to help design, is a platform for all students in LA. So we know that these small dollar savings accounts are really generating some positive results, and hopefully in 12 years down the line, a really strong return on investment for the city. So these small dollar savings accounts have been shown not just to increase the likelihood that students will go to college, it also increases college expectations, and have shown a lot of other fringe benefits, including reducing maternal depression for mothers whose children have these savings accounts. So in addition to the direct benefits on things like annual salaries and tax revenue for the city of Los Angeles and state of California, it's also beneficial for families to be able to talk about college from an early age. Most of the programs across the country start with a small seed deposit, so every child has some savings regardless of a family's ability to save. And then these programs really function as public-private partnerships where philanthropy and private dollars flow into these accounts in the form of incentives for students who need it most, but all students are included in this platform regardless of documentation status or a family's ability to save on their own. So it's really about creating a platform for all students to be thinking about college from very young age, elementary school, and be able to layer in additional supports through the school district, through nonprofit, and through other private entities to support students on their journey to post-secondary education.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it, and I very much look forward to our continued conversation and your recommendations that you'll be bringing before this committee. So I really appreciate it, and with that, we have no comment on this, right? So with that, I'm going to move this as a chair's report to our next council meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry? Oh, and the recommendation, I'm sorry. Note and file the CA's report and instruct the Housing and Community Investment Department with the assistance of Prosperity Now to report in 30 days on the questions presented in the CAO's report dated January 20th, 2017, related but not limited to the benefits of the CSA program, estimated program cost, coterminous jurisdictions, program coordination, participant eligibility, account types, funding models, and legal considerations. So I'd like to move that, Mr. CLA, to City Council as the chair's report. So item number 2. Can we get that in?
Item number 2, motion Koretz, O'Farrell, Rue, and Martinez relative to the adherence of the city departments to the good food purchasing policy and good food purchasing guidelines, current food provisions, contracts, and costs.
Thank you. This is regarding the Good Food Purchasing Program. Could I have is the Food Policy Council here? If you could come on up to the table. And if you could give us a quick presentation on the current status of the Good Food Purchasing Program.
Hi, good afternoon, council member. My name is Claire Fox. I'm the executive director of the Los Angeles Food Policy Council. And it's my honor to give you a quick status update on the good food purchasing policy in the city of LA. This policy was passed by City Council in October of 2012 and also by mayoral executive directive that same month. In November of 2012, the Los Angeles Unified School District also adopted the good food purchasing policy. This policy is a commitment by the city to provide food that is healthy, locally grown, environmentally sustainable, and from suppliers who practice fair labor and animal welfare. The program that has been built around this groundbreaking policy provides a metric-based, flexible framework that encourages large institutions such as city departments to direct their buying power towards 5 core values: local economies, environmental sustainability, valued workforce, animal welfare, and nutrition. The Good Food Purchasing Policy is the first procurement model in the nation to support each of these food system values in equal measure. In the first 2 years of implementation, the Los Angeles Food Policy Council assisted the city in developing a system for verifying compliance with vendors. Our team provided technical assistance to department staff on including GFPP and RFPs and contracts, and analyzed purchasing data collected from vendors. The results of the analysis would be a score resulting in 1 to 5 stars for the department. The original policy requests the Chief Administrative Officer to report annually to City Council on progress by the departments. The CAO reported to City Council in 2013 and 2014. In 2015, Councilmember Koretz introduced a supplemental motion specifically requesting participation of the city's proprietary departments in the Good Food Purchasing Program, Los Angeles World Airports, Harbor, and Department of Water and Power. Also in 2015, in response to national interest in the Good Food Purchasing Policy, the LA Food Policy Council helped create a national spin-off organization called the Center for Good Food Purchasing. The Center for Good Food Purchasing now runs a national good food purchasing program working with over a dozen cities and school districts across the country to implement the same GFPP that we started right here in LA. Officially, the cities of Chicago, San Francisco, Austin, and Oakland Unified School District have all adopted the Good Food Purchasing Policy. The center's role, I think it's worth noting, is to collect, analyze, and verify purchasing data from participating departments and their suppliers and provide a comprehensive analysis of compliance within the program. They award the star rating. The LA Food Policy Council's role today is to be a local liaison available to departments to troubleshoot, to identify strategic opportunities, and of course to celebrate the progress of the departments. So in terms of the progress of the departments, I'd like to offer just a few brief highlights. The Department of Recreation and Parks has been the most proactive department within the Good Food Purchasing Program. As a result of this policy, the department partnered with LA Unified School District for the Summer Lunch Program, which serves approximately 200,000 meals to youth in public parks during the summer months. As our city's supplier for summer lunches, LA Unified School District, for its part, is currently meeting the baseline in three of the 5 categories: local economies, valued workforce, and nutrition. Most notable was their contribution to the local economy, with over 20% of food overall in their portfolio sourced locally, which contributed $4 million to the local economy in just 1 year. Between 2016 and 2017, LUSD implemented Meatless Mondays, which reduced meat purchasing by 15%, leading to significant improvements in animal welfare and environmental sustainability. They also have been a trailblazer in health and animal welfare by switching to 100% antibiotic-free chicken and also launching a vegan meal pilot program just last year. So their next assessment for 2017 will be available at the end of March. So that's notable because they are our supplier for summer lunches. The Greek Theater is meeting the baseline in 3 of the 5 categories. They're actually the same categories: local economies, valued workforce, and nutrition. Between 2016 and 2017, the Greek Theater jumped from 1 to 2 stars. The Greek Theater is 1 point away from 3-star rating, which is quite impressive, pending that the baseline is met in the remaining 2 categories of environmental sustainability and animal welfare. The venue has also earned bonus points for donating to hunger relief organizations, planting a kitchen herb garden, and procuring from local women and minority-owned food vendors. They will soon start on-site composting of all food scraps for use in the garden, landscaping, and Griffith Park. The Department of Aging has also consistently included GFPP language in RFPs and contracts. The department submitted purchasing data for their largest supplier, Morrison, for the period of August to December 2013. At that time, the Department of Aging maintained strong performance in the local economies and nutrition categories and also earned a point in the environmental sustainability category for a total of 7 points, which would be 1 star, pending that baseline is met in all of the other categories. The department has not provided additional data updates since the initial assessment. Finally, LAWA submitted data to the Center for Good Food Purchasing in 2017 in the summertime for an assessment that is currently pending and expected to be done also next month. DWP, to our knowledge, no longer has an active cafeteria and has no current plans for an RFP, but they've indicated that when they do, they will include GFPP in their RFP. And then the Harbor has submitted baseline data for their cafeteria serving 400 employees. In 2013, they have not submitted data since, and I do not have additional information on the status of their rating with the center.
Thank you for that. Is the Department of Aging here as well? Yes. Oh, you want to come on up? I just had a quick question or two, but is there anything you guys want to add? Well, I could just ask my questions. Great job, by the way.
My name is Jacob Wood, and I'm responsible for the contracting of agencies that provide food to seniors living in the city of LA. And as our previous speaker said, we have added the 4 core principles to our contracting, and we're moving forward with that. Bertha Hurd, she's the nutritionist in the Department of Aging, and she probably can add more information about how we're implementing the good food purchasing policy in our contracting.
Great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Can you state your name for the record?
Bertha Hurd, the
Okay.
nutritionist with the Department of Aging. Consistent with what the food policy has said, we have implemented the food policy in 14 of our catered programs that provide senior meal service, as well as 5 project kitchens, and that impacts on 12,745 seniors per day in our community feeding program, as well as 3,762 meals per day in our home delivery Meals on Wheels component. We have...
Could I just ask, for the past 5 years, is it an increasing trend or a stable trend in the request for the meals for the seniors?
We're increasing in trends, and when we implemented the LA Good Food Purchasing Policy, we even have more excitement about coming to our meals programs with this.
What's the increase from like this year to last year or the previous year?
I don't have those statistics, but we can get those for you at a later time. Okay? So we have we have 6 different catering companies. Morrison's Healthcare is our largest caterer. We implemented the LA Food Purchasing Policy. We have the ethnic caterers, which are a Golden Dragon restaurant that serves Chinese meals, Kayugama Tofu restaurant that sells Korean meals, and the Bowman that serves Japanese meals. We have kosher meals with the Jewish Family Services. Kosher Kitchen implemented the program. We have Watts Labor Community Action Committee that serves African American style meals, as well as Wilmington JC that serves culturally sensitive meals to Mexicans and Filipinos. And St. Vincent Meals on Wheels have implemented, and that is a contractor that do separately Meals on Wheels for one of our contractors. We have contracted for 331,104 meals to deliver to homebound seniors, and we're serving at 108%. And we've contracted 346,260 meals under the Good Food Community Dining Centers, and we're at 95% performance compliance with that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So, again, we've implemented them throughout our entire network, the Good Food Purchasing.
So, obviously, you said 95% and 108%?
Yes.
So,
year to date to December 31st.
So, are you able to meet all the demands, or is demand outsupplying your ability?
The demand is outsupplying our ability. We will need additional.
Okay. Wow. Well, let me ask you 2 more quick questions. So regarding your approach on data collection from your contractors for the Good Food Program, how often are you checking in with them, or how often are you collecting the data from them?
Right now, it's going to be consistent with what the food policy tells us to do. Initially, they were the ones that were initiating the data from our vendors. So I need to get with them and find out what has changed, because I thought that they were going to be initially. Right now, I'm not initiating any data collection from them at this point. Mm-hmm. I am not.
Okay.
So I will have to get with them and see how we're going to do that collectively. It's a vast amount of vendors and a vast amount of caterers.
Okay, well, then does the department have a roadmap or an action plan for achieving the baselines in the Good Food Purchasing Program?
Yes, because each one of the vendors that we put the good food purchasing language in their professional services contract providing food, they sign the good food purchasing pledge, and they have a 3-value star plan that they have submitted. Each one is individually because each one of the caterers have a different way that they're producing food, from restaurants to bulk production or whatever. So our plan is to collect from them and see exactly how far they've gone in the 3-star value plan that they've submitted to us. But I am going to need the good food policy to work along with us to gather the majority of the data.
Well, that's great. I mean, I love to see the report back, and if you could get together with the Food Policy Council and get some of the other data sets, as well as some of the other trends, because we want to see how much you're outstripping the demand, or outstripping the supply. I want to make a few amendments to the instructions before we send it out to council. But I want to commend you and the Food Policy Council for thinking outside the box. I mean, it's not just healthy foods, but going to animal welfare and, as well as different dietary restrictions and the amount of ethnic foods that you have included. I mean, I want to order from you guys, and I can't wait till I qualify for the program. But I want to first amend the first instruction to have the Chief Legislative Analyst and the Center for Good Food Purchasing be instructed to report back as opposed to the CAO. So I wanted to come back, have the CLA do it. And I'd also like to amend the second instruction to add purchasing data from all suppliers to the list of the topics for the aging department to report back on. Okay? So, and thank you very much for the presentation. And I believe there are no comment cards on this item. So I will be sending this along to the City Council as a chair's report as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and City Clerk reports relative to the Neighborhood Council subdivision elections and amending the Los Angeles Administrative Code to revise the subdivision ordinance and related matters.
Thank you. If the City Clerk could come on up and present. Is the City Clerk here? Go. Hey, Holly, I didn't see you back there.
Good afternoon, Holly Walcott, City Clerk. Our report basically just provides information on how the City Clerk would assist the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment in conducting the subdivision elections, and it provides a funding recommendation of $128,000 from existing funds. We would just need council authority to utilize the funds for this purpose.
Yes, thank you, Holly. Thank you for clarifying that. And just for the record, and for folks in the audience and listening, I want to clarify that we are just reviewing the City Clerk's report today and not the overall subdivision ordinance changes as proposed by Bonk. So we're not doing any policy thing here. So I want to clarify that, and I want to move this along because we have to move it along City Council, but I'd like to combine 2 of the City Clerk's recommendation into one recommendation as follows. I'd like to authorize the City Clerk to reallocate up to $128,000 in funds appropriated for neighborhood council elections build out as related to the council file, recommendation number 7, towards the conduct of up to 3 neighborhood council subdivision elections from funds allocated in fiscal year 2017-18. So thank you. So we're going to move that along to the City Council as a chair's report, but there is a speaker that signed up. Thank you, Holly. Of several speakers, Sandy Brown, followed by Laura Velke. Give you 2 minutes each.
Do the neighborhood councils get any additional time or not?
Yes, you do. Are you officially?
I'm from the Westwood Neighborhood Council.
Okay.
I mean, maybe a minute. I mean, we're not talking about a lot of time.
Okay, well, I'll give you 2 minutes and let's see what happens.
Okay. My name is Sandy Brown. I'm Vice President of the Westwood Neighborhood Council, in addition to President of the Holmby Westwood Property Owners Association, which is 1,100 single-family homes located in Westwood and is part of the Westwood Neighborhood Council. I'm here today really to address the subdivision issue. And I want to read something that was in the Daily Bruin. Gracie Liu, general manager of the department, said it has the authority to enact changes to the ordinance without the city council's approval because the ordinance's current language is broad. And that, in essence, is really what the problem is in our community. I do want to agree with everything that was expressed by Laura Velke of the Historic Cultural Neighborhood Council that she wrote and has been submitted to you. The proposed subdivision in Westwood is actually going to rip our community apart. The council has voted to support a cooling off phase to try to work on problems that this new group has focused on. I would like to request that the committee reconsider the ordinance that permits subdivision of existing neighborhood councils. They should be subject to stricter standards than initial formation of a neighborhood council, since a subdivision basically destroys an existing, functioning, fully approved, and supervised by the city neighborhood council. Thereby, it defeats really the main purpose of the neighborhood council, which is to bring communities together and to give that community a voice. And we don't believe that competing voices is really the answer. Bonk needs to guard against allowing a handful of disgruntled people breaking off into their own enclave with city funding. Otherwise, they risk the entire neighborhood community splintering into special interest groups. One of the factors that should be considered is whether, under the bylaws of the existing neighborhood council, this particular disgruntled group had the possibility of occupying seats on the existing neighborhood council. We expect you to set standards for a fair and reasonable purpose to start a new council, and to also require input from the affected neighborhood council and affected communities. The current way that you're doing it now is an absolute disaster to our community, and so that I would ask that you deny the move for Bonk to decide whether an application meets the basic criteria, and to relook at that criteria so that you're not really breaking up communities, but really trying to make them a stronger community.
Thank you, Sandy. And just for clarification, neighborhood councils can get up to 5 minutes, but neighborhood councils would have to officially submit a community impact statement.
Okay.
Where your neighborhood council would have to vote on it.
The problem is that your meetings are,
Right.
till we have a next neighborhood council meeting.
Right, so we can't have the back and forth. I just wanted to explain it for the record. And if you submit a community impact statement, as well as you speak on behalf of the neighborhood council, that I could give you up to 5 minutes, but I gave you extra time because I have the chair's discretion on that, but I just wanted to state that for the record. But I do understand there are times when meetings don't coincide, and your neighborhood council might meet after the various meetings, so we understand that, and we will look into those issues as well, but I just wanted to explain how you get 5 minutes. But thank you very much, Sandy. Since you made the drive, I wanted to make sure you had some ample time. Next, we have Laura Velke, followed by Steve San.
Hi, Councilmember. Can I get some clarification on have you met quorum? Can we move items without quorum?
Well, I could move it as a chair's report. We could have you explain it. I could explain it. My staff could explain it to you after the meeting is over. Okay. But why don't we restart our time? And for the record, can you state your name? And let's restart our time.
Let me just get this here up. My name is Laura Velke. I'm the chair of the Land Use Committee and Bylaws Committee for the HCNC. I'm speaking on my behalf. So I did file a written public comment requesting that since I'm looking at since the committee hasn't met quorum, that this shouldn't be moved forward, but to ask you as the chair to ask Bonk to stop acting as if this stuff is passed. It's supposed to go through this committee. It's supposed to get approved by City Council, and none of that's happened. On top of that, I'd like to ask that you suspend the March 12th hearing. Many of us are out of town for that hearing. We can't even testify on our own behalfs in our own neighborhood council. Taking something that is meeting the base criteria of an application, in our case, 500 signatures were required, 120 were turned in. There were identified fraudulent signatures. I mean, the list goes on. We can't get answers out of done. This is a train wreck, and it just needs to be put on hold, and perhaps have a committee meeting where we all sit down and hash this out. It is getting to the point where, we don't know who's serving who. Neither Dunn nor Bonk are answerable to anybody. They're not answerable to the Ethics Commission. There's just violation after violation after violation. The last public records request I asked for, which I've been doing for a year, asking from Dunn, was I asked who processed the ballots / data for the certification, and the response to me was, Laura, I posed your question to several in the department who were part of the election, and nobody seems to have a clear understanding of what your question is. Could you please clarify? Really? You really don't know the answer to that question? This is a year's worth of this kind of nonsense. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure what the priority is, but it's certainly not these neighborhood councils or the health of them. And throwing money at bad is just not going to work. I implore you to put a hold on it. There's no need to rush through this. Let's stop the subdivision until we can all sit down and have a talk.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Stevenson, followed by General Jeff.
Chairman Rue, good afternoon. Steve Sand. I'm the chairman of the Westwood Community Council, and I also was very active on the formation committee and particularly the bylaws committee of our current Westwood Neighborhood Council. I want to echo the comments made by both Ms. Brown and Ms. Velke. This whole process, Councilmember, appears to be the rush to disaster. It's a train wreck about to happen, and it's so easily avoidable. When I read the recommendation, the February 22nd report, basically they give this compulsion that they have to conduct these elections by May 21st and June 23rd. That presupposes that these applications before you are certifiable and complete. I do note that they talk about approving only 3 elections, yet there are 4 applications before you. I don't know if they've already decided that one doesn't meet the criteria, but I can tell you that one that definitely doesn't meet the criteria is the North Westwood subdivision. Councilmember, there's literally been no outreach to massive segments of the affected community. This application was submitted by 7 UCLA students, 1 UCLA staff member, and 1 community member. Not a single business owner, not a single merchant, not a single commercial property owner, not a single member of our Persian business community, and not a single resident of our Westwood Hills area that as of about 2 weeks ago is now told they're going to be forced into this council. None of them had any input whatsoever. This is delivered as a fully baked cake. When we were involved in the formation of the Neighborhood Council for Westwood, we were a dozen meetings, public meetings of the Bylaws Committee, where people could hash out how many seats and composition and representation. None of that has taken place, and all of these affected communities have literally been shut out of this process. I want to tell you for the record that our Westwood BID, our Business Improvement District, their executive committee met last week, and they're also asking for a timeout or a cooling off period. They're having a meeting for a compromise. BizFed has voted to ask that all the business areas be left out of the boundaries. And I can just tell you that the gerrymandering that is taking place, this needs to be addressed. So I would really ask that time be given to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. I really appreciate that. Jeff, how are you? Come on.
Fine, sir. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is General Jeff. I am the chair of the Skid Row Neighborhood Council Formation Committee. I am here before you today to share our frustrations, the fact that we are insulted and we are appalled at this process. The fact that we haven't been extended the professional courtesy to even weigh in on this matter when the Skid Row subdivision is a very important matter in this whole entire process. The city clerk's letter before you specifically states that there were quote-unquote issues with the Skid Row subdivision election. Dunn's one-sided report where they extensively sugarcoat, but they point to numerous issues with the Skid Row subdivision election. We have not been extended a professional courtesy to weigh in on these matters. We feel that it's of great concern that these issues greatly and negatively affected our election. We're talking about voter suppression, voter fraud, discrimination, disenfranchisement, and on and on and on. And we have a lot to say to weigh in on this. We think that this committee is overseeing the neighborhood council system, and we want to hear from all sides. It's a matter of inclusion. It's a matter of getting things right. And as the chair, I am pounding the podium in saying that we need this process to be halted. We need this process to be vetted properly. We need to be heard. Hence the reason for the city clerk's letter stating, recommending for the monies to be repurposed. The fact that there's issues with Dunn, there's issues with Everyone Counts, there's issues with city attorney's office, there's multiple city departments that are in violations. Skid Row should not have to sue the city of Los Angeles to get things right. And of course, we're talking about, if you will, we're talking about Skid Row, which, as you know, is the homeless capital of the entire city of Los Angeles. My constituents are dying on these streets. The point of creating the Skid Row Neighborhood Council is to help better improve the homeless conditions as well as our entire community. And for this process to not be vetted through, this is the very committee that pushed this funding through when it asked for a report back from Dunn within 60 days, and then it pushed forward the funding for Everyone Counts and Dunn for the build out. And so now you have Dunn, offering a sugar-coated letter, and we haven't been extended the professional courtesy, and we demand that, and we also make recommendations that this process be halted completely until this is completely vetted through. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate that. And I know we have representatives from Dunn here. If we could have, thanks, Jeff. Grace, you want to come on up? And it's my understanding that, the reason we're even doing this is because there's currently no laws on the books regarding subdivision, which is why we wanted to start this discussion and move it forward. But can you just address, I know we're not voting on the actual Bonk decision on subdivision, but can you kind of shed a little bit of light and maybe answer some of the concerns from the various neighborhood councils that were presented today?
Sure. Gracie Liu, General Manager for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. The whole subdivision process was actually put together by neighborhood councils over a course of 6 months in 2010, 2011, and resulted in an ordinance that was passed by City Council that allowed for subdivision to happen. The reasoning for subdivision was because neighbor councils that were perhaps formed 15 years ago, 16 years ago, in areas of the city that have vastly changed, that there needed to be a mechanism for those existing neighbor councils to subdivide as opposed to completely decertify and recertify as several other new neighborhood councils. So again, this whole system was vetted and introduced by neighborhood council board members during this process. So we were finally able to pass the ordinance and had the first subdivision elections in 2016. And during that process, which is under the current ordinance, the department basically, when we receive the subdivision application, we look at it and to make sure that it satisfies components of the plan for the citywide system of neighborhood councils. If it satisfies those components, then we just move it on to election phase. So it's literally an administrative checkoff. So in the first set of subdivision elections, there was a lot of requests for there to be some type of public hearing for the review of the application. So the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, when they did a post-subdivision election feedback session, they proposed some changes. Those changes are now before City Council for review. Commissioner Leonard Schaefer asked me to pass on his regrets that he could not be here, but he really wanted to emphasize that he felt that it was necessary to have some type of hearing from the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners about any subdivision applications. Because those changes were not have not been passed yet, the department did hear. We're at those post subdivision election hearings, and to address that concern, we are having a community hearing to present the application and for each of the subdivision applications that are going forward. And so we are working with the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners to do that hearing. And so we're just at the beginning of doing outreach for these subdivisions. If they satisfy all the administrative criteria, they'll just move forward to election phase, and at that point, there'll be at least three more months of outreach for the election phase. And it is really up to the community whether or not they want the subdivision to go through. A majority of those voting must vote for the subdivision to go through in order for it to move to the final stage, which is where the commission will just review and approve the bylaws and certify the neighborhood council.
Okay. So let me just clarify. I mistakenly spoke earlier. Yes, we do currently have subdivision ordinance. Obviously, it's very clear we need a revision or an update, and that's why we have this before us today. So let me just make it absolutely clear. So we are not voting on the revisions or amendments to the current existing subdivision ordinance. We are merely moving this forward so we could start that discussion. Is that correct?
Yes, to start that discussion, also to make sure that the Office of City Clerk's report on assisting us with these subdivision elections, that moves forward too, so that any elections that do, or any applications that do go to election phase, that they are there to collaborate with us to administer the elections.
Okay. And in the summary, the four applications that were submitted, North Westwood, Little Bangladesh, North Historic Cultural, as well as Laurel Grove, these have been submitted based on the existing ordinance.
That's correct. And of those four, Laurel Grove was rejected because they did not satisfy the minimum stakeholder number of 20,000.
And more importantly, these other three then that are still in consideration, they're not going forward for a vote. There's going to be ample outreach and ample discussion.
That's correct. So there's first, before they can move to the election phase, the department will present a community meeting where we do basically a information session with the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners to the community about the application, take any questions, see if there's any issues that come up, and then move them to election phase if they've satisfied the administrative criteria.
Okay. So there will be ample opportunities for neighborhood councils and all interested stakeholders and vested parties to participate in both the future potential changes to the current subdivision ordinance, as well as to these three other areas that who are applying for subdivision.
That's correct.
Those two separate things.
Yes.
And there'll be plenty of time for community input, discussion, and debate.
That's correct.
Thank you. And that was my understanding, and I'd like to move this along to the City Council as a chair's report. There will still be time to discuss, and just to clarify, chair's report, we do not have quorum today on this committee, so it is not being voted on. It will be moved along to the City Council for a full vote as a chair's report, but at that time at City Council, because there was no vote in this committee, public comment was not fulfilled. Therefore, there will be an opportunity for public comment again at the City Council. Normally, if we had quorum in this committee, public comment would have been filled and there would not be an opportunity to speak at council, but there will be. So, and there will be opportunities for us to be in touch, and my office would love to speak to you afterwards because there is time. Okay, so thank you. With that, I'd like to move that forward as a chair's report, and I'd like to move on to all the speakers have been satisfied, so we'd like to move to item number 4. Mr. CLA?
Item number 4 is Department of Neighborhood Empowerment report on online voting and City Attorney report and ordinance relative to amending the Los Angeles Administrative Code to change the neighborhood council elections to odd-numbered years beginning in 2019, and the language for a one-time extension of terms from 2018 to 2019.
Thank you, Mr. CLA, and I thank you for that, and I want to just again clarify that on this item, we will be just considering the city attorney's draft ordinance and not the pending Dunn report. So it's just a draft ordinance, and it's basically there's this one paragraph ordinance that formally authorized the shift of neighborhood council elections from 2018 to 2019 that our committee previously and the city council previously voted on. So I have no questions unless you guys want to add anything. I don't mind moving this along to the city council as a chair's report, unless there's something you guys want to
I
add.
don't have comments unless you have questions.
No, I don't have any questions. But we do have two speakers. So Laura, and then followed by Stephen Sand. Laura Velke, you want to come on up?
I didn't want to waive if you're only moving that issue unless
Yes.
it's appropriate to the comment to the online voting.
It's related. If you want to put it on the record, it's up to you. I mean, I as the chair, I'll allow it because it is related, so.
I'll try to keep it really short too, because I just, I think one of the biggest, Laura Belke for the record, HCNC. I think the online voting issue is pretty clear. Nobody else in this country does online voting. The state of California says it's illegal to do online voting in the state of California, including all municipalities. So I'm not sure why we're having this conversation. And I think the paper ballot and getting people to the polls, especially when it's as difficult as it is to vet stakeholders, when Dunn can't even come up with a number of what qualifies as a stakeholder. They can't provide the data that constitutes what qualifies as 20,000, how they're counting it. All of these things just really need to be addressed as part of the changes in the neighborhood council system. And we just have to say no to online. As convenient as it is, it disenfranchises people.
Okay, thank you. You have an extra minute if you.
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Stephen, 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
Chairman Rue, Steve Sand, for the record again, the Westwood Community Council. On the issue of online voting, first of all, I just want to inform you that this necessity to move the elections to odd-numbered years, odd years, which we know was really precipitated by the decision to realign municipal elections with presidential and gubernatorial elections, which we all voted for and supported. I want you to note, Chairman, that this is cited as a reason, allegedly by the upset students with the North Westwood Council, that they think this was some conspiracy by Westwood to deprive them of a vote. Even though we know this is being done citywide, we've tried to explain that 1,000 times. I just want you to know the level of discourse that we've had on this issue. So that's one. And in terms of online voting, our council, the Westwood Neighborhood Council, is on record as supporting it when it is a tried and true and tested system. We are quite aware of the very great embarrassing problems that occurred in 2016 with breaches of data, and we don't have to get into Russian conspiracy. We just know what happened right here in the city of Los Angeles. There's no fake news about that, and I just yet want to say that there is, again, this is one of the points of the disgruntled students that they feel, since they have online voting in the bubble of UCLA because they have pre-registration and everyone has a reg card and it's a secure system, they feel that the city of Los Angeles should be able to replicate that, and the failure to have that is yet again used against our council as a reason why they need to have a separate council. So I do support this, and I do want to say that when online voting is a secure system, we will be happy to be a part of that when we know we can vote for you and our mayor and other elected officials in a secure system. That technology, unfortunately, doesn't exist today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen. I very much appreciate that, and we've satisfied all our comment on this. So I'd like to move this along as the chair's report as well. And we already satisfied public comment earlier, and seeing that there's no other business before us, this meeting is adjourned, and I really want to thank everyone who made the trek out here. I really appreciate that, and all the departments who are here as well. Thank you.